Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Beta85X HD VTX series, and it's in a very nice box that is sealed, but it doesn't give much away. We've got a picture of the quadcopter on the top there and a label on the back that says it's the Beta85X Whoop HD VTX PMP edition, but actually this is the naked Vista version of the 85X, and I think they could have made more of a big deal about that on the box, but it's just a box really, isn't it? So let me get this opened and we'll see what's inside. So one of the main issues with the DJI digital FPV system is that it is limited by the weight of the video transmitters. So the Cadex Vista is the smallest and lightest video transmitter that you can get, but even with the Cadex Nebula Nano camera, its weight is 24 grams, and a lot of the smaller tiny whoops, they can weigh 24 grams on their own. So what Beta FPV have done here is they have made a naked Vista, and they basically take all of the heatsink off it as much as possible, and they get the Nebula Nano kit from 24 grams to 14.2 grams, and that's quite a big deal because that makes this guy apparently 66 grams without a battery. So let's test that. You don't get much in the box here, so let's see. That's 65.4 grams, so actually a little bit lighter. Now that's probably because this is the PMP version, so this will again bind directly to my DJI transmitter. They are recommending a 450 milliamp 3S LiPo, and I've got one here. I'm not a big fan of these elongated LiPos. I know they fit these type of quadcopters nicely, but I tend to find they aren't very good when it comes to current draw. I don't think the C rating is anywhere near what it says there, so 75C. But let's see what the all-up weight of this guy is, including a battery. So that is 105 grams. So that's pretty good, isn't it, for an HD, oh, I guess you could say tiny whoop. Some would say it's not a tiny whoop. So 85 millimeters gives you a 2-inch prop. Now my current favorite whoop style model with the DJI system in it for flying around the house and generally sort of doing cinematography with is the AndyRC Rocket. Now this one does have the full DJI camera in it, so you get better quality, but let's just check out the weight of this one. This is really what I'm going to be comparing it with, so I don't know if you can see on there, but I think that's 134 grams, so this guy weighs more than the 85X without a battery. So this one, very light indeed. Of course, this one doesn't have the DJI full camera. It's the Nebula Nano camera, so it's not going to be as good a quality as this one, and the configuration that this is in as well means that it can't carry a naked GoPro camera. I'm sure you could reconfigure it to do so. I guess really this one is more about flying around and just enjoying the experience of flying with a very light setup rather than enjoying the camera footage afterwards, which you can do, of course. You can look at the DVR that is recorded through to the DJI goggles, but with this camera it's not going to be as good as this one. What we really need is Cadex to come out with a Nebula Nano Pro camera so that we have got the same or similar quality to the DJI camera. I hope they're working on that because it would really finish off this package. So let's take a look at some of the specs of this guy. We have got a carbon fiber frame underneath. It's a unibody, so really strong, much better than the older ones where they were built into the entire frame. So we've got much more strength there. And we've just got 2 screws holding in the motors. There's a silicone mat here and here to stop the battery from slipping, which I quite like. And we've got a nice Beta FPV battery strap. It's an XT30 connector, and it looks like we have got a capacitor on there as well, and that's where we access the flight controller. A little bit awkward there underneath. So the flight controller, it's an all-in-one, so that means it's a flight controller and ESC board. The ESCs are rated for 12 amps and the flight controller is an F4. The motors are Beta85X's own motors, and they are an 1103 8000 kV, so it's quite high kV. I am worried about getting voltage sag with this battery. It might be better to use a bigger battery than 450 milliamps. They say it'll get around a 3.5 minute flight time, but of course that depends how much throttle that you give it. I don't like how we've got these struts here. I suppose you could reverse it. You know, that's a much better option, having the airflow go through this way and then the thrust that way. It means we don't have anything in the way of the thrust, whereas here we have got the struts in the way and it disrupts the airflow. It can cause yaw washouts and things like that, but maybe this one will have enough power to power through all of that disruption. The naked Vista is easily accessible through this hole here, and there's also a cutout for the bind button. We do have more gaps here, which I think is actually important, because with them taking some of the heatsink off the Vista, we need as much airflow going to it as possible, because if you just have a normal Vista sitting there at full power for any amount of time, then it will overheat very quickly. So you need to make sure that you have auto temp control always on. We've got this tall molded plastic canopy, which seems really sturdy and it is screwed in all places. I was worried that this front strut here wasn't screwed in. I tend to not like these sort of strut based canopies because they have quite a lot of flex in them, and that can cause vibrations from the motors to reach the canopy and cause jello. This one seems really sturdy, so I'll have to see how it performs. And it's quite tall as well. I wish it was lower down. Of course, the lower down it is, the more sort of props we get in shot, but the higher up it is, the more sort of pendulum effect we'll get having the battery down here. The last thing you want is weight up the top and weight down the bottom, because then the flight controller has to sort of do this to level it out. But the camera angle seems to go almost flat, and it'll go up to 45 degrees. So you need to undo these screws there. I think it's 1.5mm hex screws. The antenna is one of Beta85X's own, and it's secured down, which is nice. However, if you're flying indoors, then the quadcopter is going to be fairly flat, and you could end up blocking the signal with this housing here. I'd rather it have gone up sort of more vertically like that. Of course, it's fine when you're flying outside and it's at an angle, but it's still getting blocked. But there you go, there's nothing we can do about that. In true Beta85X style, you don't really get anything else in the box at all. This is a spare set of the Gemfan 2020 4-blade propellers, and we have just got a card here saying follow us on our various social media platforms. Okay, let's see what the dealio is in Betaflight. It's flashed with version 4.1.1. If we go into the ports tab, the Vista MSP is set up on UART 2, and UART 1 is the S-bus control for the DJI controller. We actually have got a soft serial set up here, so I imagine that's for Crossfire. Yes, so I've got the PMP version, which is $269. There's a Crossfire version, $294. Then FR Sky International FCC, $279, and FR Sky LBT EU, $279. Of course, those prices change, so you can probably ignore that. But yeah, good that we've got those different receiver options. Go into the configuration tab, and we've got props out, so I need to remember that if I break a prop. D-Shot 600 here for the ESC motor protocol, and it doesn't look like we have got any RPM filtering set up. And the motor idle 5, which is fine, slight board alignment correction there. We've got 8K, 4K for the PID and gyro update frequency, and we've got some personalization there. S-bus down here for the control, that is fine. Dynamic filter on-screen display, air mode, LED strip. I don't think it's got an LED strip on it, so maybe they have just copied the dump from the previous Beta85X. Telemetry, I don't think that's going to be needed either. Yeah, we don't have a physical buzzer, so RX lost and RX set, all that is absolutely fine. And we've got our arming angle at 180 there as well. So yeah, nothing that I would change there. Let's go into the power and battery. I'd just like to put that at 3.3 so that it doesn't flash too early when we get the voltage sag up on the throttle. Go into the PID tuning here. Let's see what we've got. So let's see if, yeah, it looks like we've just got the one profile. So one battery, it's going to be the 450 milliamp battery, I'm going to be guessing, for the tune. And then if we go into the rate profile, that just looks like stock rates to me. So yeah, stock Betaflight rates. So I'm gonna put in my own rates, which is about 16 on the Expo here, and then about 0.75 for the rest of them. Yep, that should do, so save that. And then the receiver set up as AETR1234, and we've got the RSSI going out on auxiliary 12. I need to disable that because I haven't got the FR Sky version. My RSSI will feed through to the DJI goggles, and I need to do some swapping around here as well. So mine goes ATER1234. It's just my DJI transmitter. You can ignore that. Yours will probably be either what that one was or TAER if you're using an FR Sky transmitter. I'm going to put some dead zone in here as well, about 7 for my DJI transmitter to stop it from drifting in the center. So on the modes tab, I am going to have to change this, but we've got arming on auxiliary 1 and then angle mode in the back position on auxiliary 2 and horizon in the middle position. So it's going to go acro, horizon and angle with this, but I'm going to take that out because I don't like horizon mode. And then this is going to be, I think, oh, I always get this wrong, I'll have to come back to it. On the DJI transmitter, I think it's auxiliary 4 there perhaps, and I think, and that one is auxiliary 1. Let's come down here and flip over after crash. I thought they'd have that on. I'm going to turn that off because you can burn your ESCs up if that goes wrong. We haven't got beeper, so I'm going to add a range on that, and I think that is auxiliary 2. Ugh, I'm going to have to bind it and come back for that. So we've got there aux 1, aux 4 and aux 2. Yep, save that one. On-screen display, okay. Looks like the on-screen display they have just left for the analog version because it's all in the right place, and of course the DJI on-screen display isn't in the right position. You have to mess around with it. So actually what I think I'm going to do is we're just going to turn that off actually in the configuration. So if we come down here and turn on-screen display off, of course, I suppose I could turn on-screen display off in my DJI goggles, but you know, that's how you get rid of it from in there. You know, nothing in the LED strip, so I don't know why it's got LED enabled either. But let's see what's in the video transmitter. So that's correct for DJI because we're using the DJI video transmitter. So that's what I'm going to change in Betaflight. Okay, let's see how the air unit is set up. Let's just go in here. So, needs activating and all of the usual stuff. Okay, let's go for a line of sight flight with this guy. Having to turn around because it's such a windy day today, and the wind is blowing in my face and it's making my eyes water. Freezing cold, as you can see, there's ice on the ground. But anyways, we are flying. Oh, that wind is horrible. Currently in angle mode. So one thing you have to make sure you do with this guy is put a fan on it when you are updating the Vista, because it'll just keep crashing as it's overheating. It doesn't have that heatsink on it, of course. So I was there waiting for ages and it just kept crashing. Then I realized, oh, it's actually turning off. Yeah, it's getting blown around by the wind. Gone into acro mode. Oh, the wind is just getting underneath it though. So it's not one for horrendous weather conditions, that is for sure. To be fair, I think a lot of quads on a day like today might struggle with the angle I'm having to put in just to get it to fly. Yeah, it hasn't got much poke on 3S, despite it being, you know, a lighter setup. Whoa, getting away from me with the wind. Now it's just a silhouette. Come back, boy, come back. There we go. Yeah, it doesn't help with the light today either. See, it's sort of gusting as well. See if we can get a punch out with it. Oh, it's not too bad, you know, it's not too bad. Wish I had a better day to test it, but believe it or not, this is the best day we've had for quite a while. As soon as I turn my head this way, my eyes instantly start watering. Again, I think it's like -4 to -6 today. Lovely stuff. Yeah, that's better. But the wind's getting underneath it. That's why I don't like this style of protector. You see, it sort of allows for a cushion of air and you get these sort of random scares where you go to 0 throttle and the thing starts lifting up. Okay, the wind's coming back. Point myself that way, otherwise I can't see. I mean, it's really not fair testing this guy with the wind like this. Yeah, it's got power though to do acro and stuff. Yeah, plenty of power really for its size. So yeah, I guess let's do some FPV with it and see how it performs in this horrendous gale. Well, there's absolutely no danger of the Vista overheating today. Just my hands freezing. Straight away I'm seeing Jallo on the screen, which is disappointing really, because it always does sort of put a dampener on the HD experience. The wind's, oh, and we've got your washout, right, okay. So trying to make this thing as light as possible. Well, it hasn't really worked, has it? I know it's a little bit windy. The wind's actually calmed down a little bit from when I did the line of sight. Yeah. So really this one, it probably, you know, just an indoor quad or a racer really. See if we can race this bird. Oh, he doesn't want to play. No, come on, come on. We've got the power to keep up with him. He's going to go off to the side of the houses. That's what they usually do. Oh, you see, they're not used to it because I've not flown here for a while. Oh no. He's going into the tree. Okay, I don't want to go over there. Oh yeah. Need to be careful here. I do have a spotter. So we've got lots of traffic on this field since it's everyone's exercising spot due to lockdown. We're still in lockdown here in the UK. Yeah, the Nebula camera, it's just not up to scratch either, is it, compared to the DJI camera. I know it's a micro camera. Oh, I'm flying backwards here. Hang on, give it some throttle to come back. Yeah, it's still a little bit windy. And then that's like 0 throttle to come down there. Yeah, I'm getting hit by the wind here now for sure. Oh yeah, maybe it would be more fair. That's 0 throttle and I'm climbing. I don't like it. Come back down. They always come down, you know, just not necessarily where you want them to. It's my voltage. So really we want to be landing at around 10 volts. So yeah, short flight time. Oh, the wind. Yeah, I've seen them. Okay. Yeah, just yeah. So I don't think this is going to be one to do acro with, just flying around in a straight line. Otherwise it's going to catch you out. It's going to be better for indoors, you know, but then again with this Nebula micro camera, you know, that's all you're going to have really in terms of, you know, your recording and that. Can't really stick a naked GoPro on this unless you reconfigure it. So yeah, I'm really surprised how much jello there is actually. Didn't expect there to be this much, because the Beta85X cases with the sort of the hybrid cameras performs pretty well, but this one, I mean, the sun's not even out. I mean, it's out just going down there, you know, it never really gets higher than that. And we're getting the shakes all the way through. Speaking of shakes, my hands are getting the shakes as well. Then they're at 10.5 volts there. I think we're getting a better flight time because this thing's sort of just hovering on its own pocket of air. Yeah, some blurriness at the side of the camera. We've got that sort of weird sheen over the top of it as well. Yeah, just sort of, it's not quite there, is it? But you know, it's tiny, it's inconspicuous. It's not very loud either. So, you know, if you want that sort of thing, then this is there. To have to see, you know, what it's like indoors. 3S can be quite powerful for indoors, you know, but I fly my AndyRC rocket indoors, no problem. On 3S, oh, we're getting the warning there at 3.3 volts, so I should probably bring it in. It's actually a 4-minute flight time, so yeah, there you go. Okay, so here we are indoors. I'm in angle mode, and the first thing that I'm seeing is, well, a lot of flicker from the lights actually, and that's not something that I actually get with the proper DJI camera. It might be something to do with the fact that this one is locked to its settings. So we are stuck in 16:9, and it's got its own settings for the Nebula camera. But it's very controllable here in acro mode, I have to say. So let's fly through the house a little bit. I can see this flickering getting annoying though. See if we can have a look at ourselves in the mirror. Yeah, so very controllable around the house. Most feels like it's got too much power for inside actually. Having to be very cautious on the stick so that we don't fly through the roof. Of course I can't get into spaces as tight as you can with, you know, something smaller. You can fly indoors. Just make sure that you don't fly over anything like those counters or anything. You'll blow all of the stuff off. Above the mirror in here there's like some pop puree stuff which I've had to put over there because it always blows it everywhere. Yeah, it's fairly controllable in angle mode. Yeah, definitely lacking the vertical field of view indoors, but there's nothing you can do about that with this camera. Lights flickering all the way around the house. Of course we are running on 50 Hertz here and can't change any of those settings, you know, but you might not get this flickering, you know, in the US. Oh, got a new room that's open in here. Try not to land in the bath. Yeah, the light's not flickering in here, I don't think, or it's not as much. I think it's variable. Oh, it's very tight in here though. Try not to land in the bath, please. Okay, let's try the most difficult part, and that is going down the stairs. Whoa. Trying not to tense my fingers up. This is the difficult part because it's literally, you know, as sort of wide as a body. We end up bashing something here. Have to go very slow. There we go. Yeah, so I've got the camera set at an angle that's sort of like the most flat without getting the protectors in shot. If you bring it down any more than this, it will go flat, but then you get a protector in shot and some of the canopy as well. And because the sensor of this particular camera is sort of off to one side slightly, you know, then you sort of, you don't get asymmetrical parts of the protectors in shot. Yeah, decent flight time with this thing. I think you're going to get that indoors, flying around slow like this. But, okay, what do I think about it? Well, I like that it's light. I don't like how it flew in acro, I'm afraid. And, you know, when I compare it to my favourite one of these with a digital system, which is the AndyRC Rocket, that one's a 2-inch model. Yeah, it's heavier than this, but that one can have a bigger battery, and it's sort of really the same footprint. It can have a 4S for outside, and if you go and check out my review of the SMO camera, that's what I use with the SMO camera, and it had bags of power to do acro, no sort of yaw washout. It's top-mounted battery. Yeah, it's heavier, but that would still be my choice, especially as it's got the DJI camera on it as well. So I could fly around the house and I didn't have any of this flickering from the camera. So yeah, that's still my pick, which is interesting because the Rocket, well, that's probably been a year that that's been out now. But sometimes it's not just about, you know, making it lighter, you know. Everything's on top of each other with this quadcopter. You've got the battery underneath, and on top of that, you have got the flight controller and ESC board. And then on top of that, the Vista and the camera, and then that sort of pod in the middle. That creates sort of like a pendulum effect. It just makes them not nice to fly for acro. Fine for racing, but, you know, especially with these ducts, or protectors, sorry, the way that they are, and you're just going to get that yaw washout. I think they've got better protectors on the AndyRC Rocket, and that would be my pick. I think they need to revise this. It needs to fly better, and it needs the DJI camera on it, or at least the Nebula Pro camera on it, I think. To get my money, anyways, you know. Anyways, that's the battery, so let's bring it in for a landing. That is my review of the Beta85X HD Series edition. I'll put a link in the video description if you wish to get one, as well as a pinned comment. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.